Hey, football fans, welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, the show where we gather around to talk about the greatest team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Bryan Hanes, and we have some interesting combine news to talk about. So let's get into this video. But beforehand, if you're not already, please consider going down and hitting that subscribe button. If you do that and you hit the bell next to it, you'll get notified on all the videos we put out here Monday through Friday, giving you all new updates on what's going on this offseason. So if you're a Detroit Lions fan or you're just a football fan looking to stay up to date, make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe. With that being said, though, let's jump into our first topic today. As you can see, we are talking about some linebackers to look at during the combine. And while linebacker isn't a huge need for us right now, given our, probably six guys we're going to be able to keep on the roster, or even seven next into this next season, it's not our biggest worry, but it's always worth keeping some eyes on the draft targets, considering Anzalone's absence means we are lacking in pass coverage linebackers now. The first guy I want to look at, and before I mention this, I don't think we should be using a first or a second round pick on linebackers. A third round pick's even a little crazy. I think fourth, fifth, going into those rounds are probably where we're going to try to find a linebacker. But let's look at some possible guys that could fit the mold we're looking for. Starting with Oregon linebacker Bryce Boecher, 6'2", 232 pounds, and a two-sport athlete. He was drafted in the 13th round of the MLB draft in 2024. Boecher was a first-team All-American for the Ducks in 2025 after tallying 136 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, and an interception. He won the Burlsworth Award for top walk-on player in college football in 2024. That's pretty cool. And then he looks like a day three guy. We could absolutely get a steal with value in this guy. He seems to kind of be the type of dude we'd want on our team. He says, quote, "Number one, off the field, I'd say my ability to be emotionally in tune with what's around me. I've got emotional intelligence, and that can be a really good superpower when you're dealing with people, relationships, etc. On the field, I'd say my motor is my biggest strength. I haven't met a lot of people that share my same passion and love for the game, and I think it shows on my tape." End quote. Yeah, the dude's when he says passion, I mean he plays with passion. Like he wants to run through a brick wall every single play. And the Oregon coaching staff actually moved him originally from safety to linebacker. This was a move that he first joked about because he thought he was going to be a Hall of Fame safety at the end of his career. But he got shifted to linebacker during a sprint practice. He has the safety experience, though, which means he knows how to play the ball in passing situations. With a little development, I think we could turn this guy into a starter, if not a turnover machine in our linebacker core. I really like what he offers. If he's going to be a day three guy, we could probably get a steal on him in terms of what pick we're going to end up using. I think if he's there, he'd be a great pick. And I'm not saying he'd replace Anzalone, but he would definitely help fill that void left by him. And in a year or two, I'm sure we could get him up to starter level with some development. So that's what I think about that guy. I think this is like a very good, cool thing. And the fact that he's a two-sport athlete is a little worrisome, of course, because it's like you want all his focus to be on your team. But regardless, I think it's pretty cool that there's an athlete like this who might actually fall into the perfect spot for us. Next, we have a linebacker from Iowa named Carson Sherrar. He's 6'1", 228 pounds. He's played mostly special teams in his first 3 years of college, behind a ton of talent at Iowa, before finally getting his turn in 2025 to show what he's made of, and he took full advantage of that opportunity, tallying 83 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks in his final year as a Hawkeye. Known for his motor and effort, which I feel like is going to be a consistent thing when you talk about linebackers for the Lions. He was a 2-time winner of Iowa's, quote, Hustle Award. He screams hardworking player. He screams guy with a chip on his shoulder, right? He had to sit for 3 years before finally getting his opportunity to show what he's got. Still, though, his lack of tape before 2025 does put him as a day three or higher guy, which is good for us. What was interesting was his ties to the Lions before he got a start. He spent a couple of years waiting behind linebacker Jack Campbell, who was also a Hawkeye, choosing to be patient rather than just jumping in the transfer portal, which I swear 99% of players are doing these days. And I'm a huge fan of that mindset. Stay somewhere, develop, make that your school, right? Don't be the guy who's been to 4 different schools and in 4 years, right? That to me shows you just want to go where the getting's good. You're not trying to build anything. And if I'm an NFL coach, I love the talent regardless, but the fact that he's willing to stay somewhere and build something shows me a little more. He said, quote, just being at Iowa, the tradition, the culture there is unmatched. So I think I just wanted to stay there and stay in the program, keep developing throughout there. I think the coaches and teammates just being around them my whole career just continued to help me grow as a person and a player, end quote. And that's what you really get when you stay somewhere to develop, to build something with a team. He's also met with Lions linebacker coach Sean Dion Hamilton at the combine this week. He said, quote, I met with a scout and linebackers coach, just went through some install, learned their great defensive scheme that they have and their playbook, went through some calls and made some adjustments through some film plays. Seems, or end quote. And that's what Sherrar was saying. So to me, it seems like he's already building a little bit of chemistry with our coach. Seems like they're already getting along. And from what I've read, dude fits the mold of a Detroit Lion all around. I think it'd be pretty cool to see him on this team. You guys can let me know what you think about these two guys. I don't think, of course, linebackers are our biggest need, but if they end up being there and want to use the pick on them, I think either of these guys would be huge and great additions to an already pretty solid linebacker room. Our second topic of the day is addressing something I feel like a lot of people in the comments have been talking about. The media has loved this topic, and that's Detroit's Super Bowl window, whether or not it's even still there. And I think the big guy that we've wanted to hear from is Bryan Hanes and what he thinks. And we finally got some answers. And while we have piled up some wins in the past couple of years, things took a turn this past year, as we know. After finishing 15-2 last season, Detroit slipped to 9-8 in this past season, missing the playoffs as well, which was a complete 180 from the year prior. And it did raise some questions whether or not the team still had time to be a true contender. General Manager Brad Holmes addressed some of those concerns during the NFL Combine, and here's what he had to say. So first, he addressed the lingering questions surrounding our championship trajectory and the notion that our window is closed. He said, quote, I would push back on that. We have a lot of young ascending players. Look back at this past season. We had 6 Pro Bowl players and we had 3 All-Pro players that weren't even available. Holmes, of course, was referring to some of these guys who were out for lengthy periods of time, like Kirby Joseph, Taylor Decker, or Sam Laporta, who we know any given day being healthy, they could make that all-pro roster. The 2-time PFWA Executive of the Year cited Jared Goff among the many reasons why he remains optimistic about the future, noting that he is in his prime and playing at a high level, which there's a lot of people, and I'm going to call you fake football fans. If you think Jared Goff is the issue in Detroit, you're wrong. You're just wrong. Look at his numbers. Look what he did this year without interior protection on that O-line, and you will be pleasantly surprised. He's also said, quote, I understand the situation. You get that close to making it to the big game, and then you don't make it that close again. Okay, the easy narrative is, okay, it's closing because you missed your shot. But that's not what we believe. We still believe that our window's open, and really the way we operate is that we want to avoid windows, end quote. And I love that. Avoid windows. You always want to be a contender. I like that kind of mindset coming from Brad Holmes, and I like that he kind of spins the question his way here. But postseason success really is the only benchmark that matters in the NFL, and the Lions have yet to finish the job. You know, I don't think our window is closed. I totally would agree with Brad here. And while we did have that fantastic, perfect stars aligned kind of squad in 2023 and in 2024, Holmes is right. We still have a ton of young talent, ascending players, and I don't think it's going to be a situation where, oh, we had our chance. We had the young guys. They're gone now. I think if we continue to draft correctly, we could have a good team for a long time. And I think that's just the way it is. I think that, getting sad and getting disappointed just because it seems so good and it's gone. You can't think like that. It could always be your year in the NFL. And now it's going to take us just to our little segment where I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Ultra. So starting new habits can be extremely hard, especially when we're around this time now. Most New Year's resolutions are forgotten about, swept under the rug, and that's okay. One of mine was to actually stop drinking as much coffee. Since I graduated college, I really started relying on coffee to get my day going, and I think that's where Ultra really does come in clutch. They're packed with new tropics that are designed for mental clarity, enhanced focus, and they give you that same kick as a nicotine pouch for all you nicotine people, without the side effects like buzz, addiction, jitters, crash, or even gum rot. Most pouches that are supposed to be energy pouches also will elevate your cortisol, raise blood pressure, and keep your body in a constant state of stress. And I'm not sure about you, but that sounds awful. Ultra pouches let you keep your pouches, but with that cleaner kick. Don't just take it from me though. 90% of users saw significant improvements in their overall focus levels. It's trusted by athletes, entrepreneurs, and engineers around the world, so you got nothing to worry about. Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. New customers can use code FANARCH to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's takeultra.com for 15% off with code FANARCH. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Make sure you go ahead and let them know Lions Latest sent you. Show some love for the channel. We'd absolutely love it. It would mean a ton from you guys. Link is in the description. Go give Ultra a try. With that being said, now let's move to our fourth topic of the day. Just talking about Tate Ratledge and more specifically the O-line. So we've talked about this before, and I think it's pretty clear the Lions don't want Tate Ratledge to move to center. With that being said, if we had to, would the Lions still consider it? And I think that we're going to address that interior lineman role, whether it's a guard or a primarily center heavy interior lineman. It's going to be someone. Now, if we decide to go and grab another guard, is there a chance that we then move Ratledge to center, or do we just draft the center and keep Ratledge where he is? Let's say in this case we grab a guard and move Ratledge to center. Now, we've talked about this before. I don't necessarily think this is our best move, but it still remains an option nonetheless. Now that Decker is confirmed back, do we focus on grabbing the interior lineman first, or do we just focus entirely on a center? Because there are some pretty good ones in this class. Jake Slaughter is the #1 prospect. We've mentioned it before. Slaughter, super sick last name for a lineman. And he's got that 85.1 combine rating. If he's available, which who knows. It would be great to take him in that first round, but I seriously think the Lions are going to go ahead and take a guard in the second round just because now we know our tackle situation's not as bad. We can use round 2 and 3 to focus on the line if we need to. I seriously do think now we're going to start shifting to a defensive end in the first round, which seemed completely impossible, unavailable. But now that Decker is back, I think that really does shift our priority. This year, Ratledge got his welcome to the NFL moment, to be honest. He had a 2025 rookie season with a 70.2 Pro Football Focus grade, which was 19th among guards. Not terrible. He started all 17 games in 2025. He only allowed 2 sacks and 13 quarterback hurries. Not fantastic, but again, rookie season kind of threw him straight into the flames. I would say give him a little bit of a slack here. I think he has the potential to fill the role at center, but with time, we're going to have to plan for it. I think what I'm saying by this is since we have more time than when it was like Ragnar just being like, deuces, we actually have some time to really put a plan into motion. And I think we just go with the more experienced option, whether that's going into free agency to find a guy. We've mentioned a few before who are going to be free agents, or you just go straight into the draft and find a guy who primarily plays center anyways. So we don't have to worry about our guys always just being a serviceable backup center in that starting role. That's just what I think about that. Again, I want to hear your guys' opinions. Do you think Tate Ratledge would be okay as the center, or do you think we're going to get something worse than what we saw with Glasgow? And now for our fourth and final topic, we're not doing comments. We're actually talking about some more combine guys, this time with defensive tackles. Continuing our NFL Combine watch, we're moving to the defensive line class, which we could honestly be in for a mix of both defensive linemen and those edge rushers. I wouldn't be mad about another interior guy, though. And I want to make this the focus of this topic to be interior defensive tackles rather than those edge rushers, just because we have talked so much about edge rushers already. Let's start with Georgia defensive tackle Christian Miller, 6'4", 310 pounds. This dude's a monster. He's a nose tackle and 2-year starter at Georgia. Miller's a run-stopping machine. The production numbers have been relatively low, but don't let that fool you. His on-tape stuff won't convince you otherwise. He has 20 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks in 2025. But what he does is he elevates those players around him, mainly by occupying double teams every single play. Holy moly, if he takes a double team on the same side as Hutch, we get so many more one-on-one situations. Or you pair him with McNeil, we got insane pass rush up the middle. With Williams, it's a wall against any kind of run scheme. I really like the ideas in the in theory stuff we have with this guy. And he is a projected later second to early third round guy. So I can see us grabbing this guy if we end up getting our lineman picks pretty early. The only issue with this guy is his character and whether or not he's right to be a Detroit Lion. Back in March of 2023, Miller was caught going 95 miles per hour, but Miller then talked openly and honestly about how that changed the trajectory of his career and served as a wake-up moment for him in his life. He said, quote, "When mistakes like that happen, when things like that happen, it kind of teaches you you've got to grow up fast. I had to understand that decision that I made when I was speeding, it not only affected me, but it affected my teammates and my family. So I had to understand that I have to be more intentional when I'm driving." Yeah, I would say so. And end quote. And it also makes it worse that it's a Georgia guy doing it. I feel like it's just a bad omen at this point. But to be fair, Miller did pay his dues. Literally, he was fined. He came into early. He came in early to the facility stuff to do all the stuff early. He did community service, all to get back in the good graces of the team and the law. And to be honest, it ended up working. He was sincere about it, and he got back to a position where he was trusted by his coaches again. To me, the sincerity of it shows me, dude made a mistake. Who doesn't make mistakes? But he wasn't trying to be a jerk about it. He wasn't trying to make excuses for himself. And to me, it seems like he's learned his lesson. So I would be willing to give the guy a chance. But you let me know what you think. And for our second guy I want to talk about, just keeping the theme of Missouri defensive linemen, we talked about Zion Young last time. Chris McClellan might be the guy, the defensive tackle from Mizzou. In the last 2 seasons where he played with Missouri, he combined for 87 tackles, 4 passes defended or swatted, 8.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. So, again, I keep saying this, but dude is a beast. He's 6'4", 323 pounds. Holy crap. But this, of course, comes with the cost of his stock being this awesome. He might be a guy who goes late day one, but if not, he is a lock for that day two. Or most likely even in the second round. So if he's there, we're going to have to use one of those higher picks on him. It's not going to be a situation where, he's going to fall. He's not going to fall. So we are going to have to make a pretty big time decision about him. He's pretty high up on the defensive tackle combine list. But this is rather than the last guy, this guy is one of those, if we want to go take that shot and grab some more defensive tackle or defensive lineman reinforcements, this would be the way to go. But I do truly feel if we go defensive line, it is going to be on an edge rusher. That's just my thought, though. You guys let me know what you think, which direction you think the Lions are going to go in. With that being said, though, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Lions Latest. If you made it to this part in the video, give me your opinions on both the linebackers and the defensive tackles I shared with you, and whether or not you'd like to see them in Honolulu Blue. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss a single video here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.